guys.
Hey guys, it is Scotch for Dummies.
4 guys on a Scotch journey to help you with your next Scotch purchase. And we are here today
in the Spaniard.
Guys, this is pretty
We
incredible.
are in the West Village of New York City, right? Is that mean?
Yes.
You're very welcome to New York, boys.
We are down 4th Street at the Spaniard, which has a lot to talk about. I'm not sure if you're familiar with any of these bottles, especially these two guys here, the Spaniards. But we're going to talk about those, and we're going to talk about why those bottles are here and why we're here. Because
And they haven't kicked us out yet. It's awesome.
But
We're open for another 12 hours.
They're giving us a cure-all for everything right here.
It's like penicillin.
And there you go.
we have the pleasure and the honor to interview the owner of the Spaniard, and that's who's sitting with us right now.
Thanks for having us.
Mike,
Thank you.
You've got a long story when it comes to this bar, to these whiskeys, to this drink that you've just served us, which I have to say is pretty cool. We're going to have to talk about this. I wasn't
really
prepared to talk about a mixed drink, but this is killer.
Yeah.
This is really good. So we'll get to that, but welcome to our show, and thank you for inviting us in here to talk to you about this. I know that there's a lot going on with Whiskey Fest tomorrow, but let's back it up before all that, and let's talk about the Spaniard. Let's talk about you. Where do you come from? What gets you to this? What gets you to today? Where did you come from, and how did you get into this industry?
So I was actually born in Belfast, Northern Ireland.
So northern.
I was born in Northern Ireland, but only lived there for a few years before my family moved to Glasgow, Scotland. So I moved to Glasgow, Scotland when I was around 6, and then I ended up spending the majority of my education years, so from what we call primary school,
Yeah.
high school, and then university, was all in Glasgow, Scotland, so from 6 to 24. And then after that I went to London for a few years before moving to New York. But my work in bars began back when I lived in Glasgow. I started working in bars when I was 17 in a bar. It's still there. It's in the centre of Glasgow called Waxy O'Connor's, big old Irish bar. Started as a glass collector at the very bottom. Worked my way up to be a server. Worked my way up to be a barback. Worked my way up to be a bartender. Worked my way up to be the head bartender. Graduated from university with a degree in politics and history. Moved to London.
Perfect bartender.
So then I moved to London, and I actually worked in the House of Commons for the British government for a year. And I hated it. So I thought, well, at least I have these bar skills to fall back on. And just so happens that my cousin ran a bar in London, and he needed someone. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm just going to get back into that. Started bartending within about a month. I was basically the manager of that bar again because I'd had so much experience. And then, I kind of wasn't really thinking of coming here too much. And then in 2007, my other cousin had just opened a bar in the East Village called Bua. And I just came over on a little whim, met him, we chatted. He was like, you want to come over here, do it? And I was like, no, let's try something new. Went home, handed in my notice, packed up, moved here, and then that was 10 years ago.
Wow.
So I ran that bar for about 7 years in the East Village, and then basically, it's not easy running a bar, but saving up, planning, coming up with ideas to open this bar. And this bar's kind of basically everything that I've experienced in bars through in Glasgow and London, back in Belfast, when I go back to Belfast, when I first moved to New York, all those ideas that I think make a bar great is what I kind of put into opening this bar.
So when was this bar officially opened?
April 2017. So we've only been open about 18 months now, but we're
Very cool.
so far it's going great.
I would say it's going great because someone just told us that this is the number one.
Yes, so that drink you're drinking is called a Penicillin. As much as I wish I could take credit for creating that drink, I have to give it to one of my best friends. His name is Sam Ross. He used to run a bar in the Lower East Side, a very famous bar called Milk and Honey, which is basically the bar that's known for reigniting the craft cocktail movement, basically.
Yeah, which is popular right now.
Yes. So they were very much back in the day, suspenders and bow ties and stuff. the bar now is actually called Attaboy. The same owners, it's Sam Ross, Michael McElroy, both very good friends of mine. They would fill you in more on the story of this, but it basically came about through Compass Box Asylum, Compass Box, Peak Monster, and to me it's kind of a play on a Gold Rush. A Gold Rush is like bourbon, honey, lemon, but it's just something about it that just to get Scotch in a cocktail. If you were to ask people to name Scotch cocktails, after maybe the Rob Roy, people don't really have anything.
Not much, yeah.
This drink is already like, to me, a modern classic.
I could see us totally making this at home.
Oh yeah, easy to do. I mean, I don't know if you gents know a restaurant called Keen's steakhouse up on 36th Street. If you don't, you need to go. If that's where you have to go tonight. If you there's a place to go to Queens. Queens is an old steakhouse. It's probably been in New York for 100 years. They have this on their menu. You go to any bar, basically any self-respecting bartender now knows how to make this drink. It's like a Manhattan. It's like an old-fashioned.
Yeah,
What's it furnished with? What's it?
Candied ginger. And it's just one of these lucky things that I happen to like. It's weird where you think, who invented the Manhattan?
Yeah.
You know, there's probably stories around this, but we can actually talk to the guy who
know
invented this,
that.
and he might come in here later on today. He actually might be here for the whiskey thing later on if he's here. You can chat to him, but it's just strange that this movement's back now, and we get to like chat to the guys that make these drinks. I basically asked him, "Do you mind if I use your cocktail on my menu?" He was like, "Go ahead." Karen's an old friend of mine. She used to work at a bar called PDT, which is across the road from Bua. We were old friends. When I was opening here, I wanted to work with people I knew and people I trusted, and you know, it wasn't necessarily about just the best deal you could get. It was about the best whiskey or the best mezcal you could put in the drink to make the best drink. So luckily, me and Karen knew each other, and we just kind of struck up a relationship that's flourished into a pretty
I love the
successful
ginger
one.
on
Yeah,
it.
this is amazing.
So it's always been made with peat monster? And it's
The original recipe we'd always call
Yeah.
for peat monster.
Okay.
You know,
Great.
if you do it the right way, that's the right way to do it.
This is it reminds me of a Moscow Mule, but it goes to 11. It's like it's just
It's
even
11?
it goes to 11. It's
I
even
love the
better. It's
ginger in it.
awesome.
Yeah.
And a lot
So
of
great.
when I opened this bar was to try and make Scotch more accessible to people who are just naturally like, you know, like they step away from it. They don't think that they can kind of get
That's
into
what
it.
we do.
This drink is the perfect
It is.
way to be like, just try that, and I'll drink that, and I'll be like, this is delicious.
And this is Scotch.
Why don't you try this too?
Maybe I should try something else.
There you
Exactly.
go.
From that, you can lead them into other things, and that was definitely something I wanted to kind of get across. Pointing outside here, that big whiskey board. The
Yeah.
whole idea of that was to try and get people more interested in Scotch, trying different Scotches, being aware of the range, the variety. You know, I grew up in Glasgow, and I'll be honest, we didn't drink it when we were young. Like it wasn't something that was kind of called upon. We kind of thought it was drinks that old men drank.
Yeah.
And not insulting.
No, we're
As a company,
changing.
you know what
It's
I mean?
changing.
It's
the
changing
game
right now.
And I think now that people are just beginning to appreciate for what it is, they don't kind of think of it as this kind of like PD. Like they don't think PD is bad necessarily
Yeah.
anymore. They don't
Not
think
at all.
smoky is bad.
Love it.
They love it and they
I
want
love
it.
it. That's
And
my
people,
wheelhouse.
and people now are like, give me more pea, give me more smoke. That's great. So you know that was the whole idea here, and to see people kind of respond to it and be like on board with it is beyond my wildest dreams, to be honest.
Well, I could tell you, Ben, the variety they have on the board is fantastic.
It's huge.
You were talking about when you came in.
Yeah.
Did you see Uber up there as well?
I took a couple pictures. I didn't focus
Who else
exactly.
up there?
I mean, great.
You have
selection.
some unusual ones. Do you pick out all the whiskeys?
So
that go on the board?
I picked them out, and we rarely change them. The rule is to change them, and then if someone comes in, I say to them, which one has to come off. So I kind of put pressure on them to be like, which one would you
The
take
board's
off?
only so
And-
big.
Yeah, because the board is only so, and it's actually 100 exactly. We didn't realize it, we counted it, it was like, oh, that's
No
perfect.
kidding.
That's
They're
perfect. 150 Scotches, and then 50 between Japanese, rye, bourbon, Irish, and
Okay.
yeah, that would be it. But yeah, 50 Scotches up there. I kind of wanted it to be, if you wanted something kind of entry level. So to me, Highland Part 12 is like the entry level. I would always give that to anyone to be like, try this.
Hey, we didn't even prompt them.
If you want to try something, try this, and then you can like splash of water and you get it, and you're like, people usually understand it. I'm not going to be like, try this Lagavulin on the Freud straight away.
Oh no.
You got to build up to that.
You've got to work.
right,
It's
right.
a journey to get there.
And there was a whiskey I drank when we were opening. Someone tried me on it. It was the Talisker Amoroso. Don't know if you had that one. It was a sherry
No,
Talisker,
not.
which we have it here. We could try it.
Dude,
And
oh.
that had a bit of the smoke to it, but a lot of the sweetness in the sherry. And I was like, oh, this is a great whiskey for people who are
Stepping
scared of the
stone,
smoke. Because you get that little bit of sweetness off it.
Right.
And then from that, like the Glenrothes sherries, the Balvenie Portwood is probably one of my favourite overall.
21?
Whiskey, 21-year-old. So I wanted it to be like, you know, if you come in here and you kind of either want to get to know whiskey, we got stuff for you. If you come in here and you know your whiskies, we got stuff for you. If you come in here and you're like, wow, I thought I knew your whiskies, like, I've never even seen that
This
one
is a
before.
dangerous place for the 4 Dummies.
Yeah.
It can be real expensive.
Really
right now.
dangerous.
And again, I thought bottles would gather dust. Like, as in, we'd get a bottle of something and we just sit there on the shelf. We've gone through every bottle 3 or 4 times, even the
Sounds like your bar, Sean.
Because that's tough. Yeah.
It's
That
great.
does sound like my bar.
And people kind of want to try these things. They kind of are up to experiment. They try one, they're like, this is great, let's try something else.
So the name of the bar, the Spaniard. You're born in Ireland. You moved to Scotland. Why do you call it the
Yeah,
Spaniard?
what's up?
So basically, there's 2 bars in Ireland. There's only 2 bars outside of here in the world called the Spaniard. One is in Belfast and the other's in Kinsale, Cork. I'm from Belfast and my cousin, who's my partner, our family's from Belfast, and our 2 partners are from Cork. And the Spaniard in Belfast is one of my favourite bars in the world. The Spaniard in Kinsale, Cork, if you ever go to, is one of the most beautiful bars you'll ever be in your life. And I've always just thought it's an epic name for a bar. And that was it. And I looked, there was no bar in America called the Spaniard. We found this location, and I was just like, this bar should be called the Spaniard, because if someone says, do you want to go for a drink in the Spaniard?
It's a great name.
Yeah, I want to go for a drink.
So, you don't need to
How can you
discuss,
say
you don't need
no
to be
to
like,
that?
Which one?
when we first opened, some guy came in, he complained, he was like, I thought it was going to be tapas food, and I was like,
Sorry about your luck.
we got a good burger, we got everything else you want, and making tapas. But, the bar becomes the name we always think. We want the name to be kind of just, not specific to anything, just a great name that you want to go and drink there.
Well, I love drinking here.
It's so cold. I want to walk around through the bar and actually see what the other side looks like over there. I mean, it looked comfortable right off the bat walking in. It actually has an old feel. The building's probably older than
170 years old, I think.
Give
Used to be a
or take,
blacksmith. Used to be a blacksmith back in the day. Some of the staff think it's haunted, so
That's the best kind of bar.
It's nothing to do with that right
doesn't
now.
want a haunted bar.
They wanted to perform exorcisms and stuff.
So you actually mentioned one of your whiskeys. I was going to ask you one of my questions I have for you. What's your go-to whiskey? Just your
Everyday.
You're like, hey, let's go back to my place. What's your go-to whiskey?
So my go-to whiskey would be Highland Park 12 and Blackbush.
Blackbush. Really?
And Blackbush came more from my grandfather. Used to always drink Blackbush, and I kind of saw it in the house. And then don't know what it was. There's something about Jameson where some of the Irish whiskies you just associate as being kind of shots and stuff. Blackbush had like a kind of whiskey-ness to it sometimes, I think. And I don't know why. I just kind of have always been a big fan of Blackbush. But then Highland Park 12, and then the first Scotch that I got into Scotch whiskey, it was an old bartender when I worked in Glasgow when I was 18. He was probably like 26. His name was Seamus O'Sullivan, I remember him well. And he sat me down with a bottle of Chivas. And used Chivas, Chivas 12.
Okay.
And he used that as kind of a way to teach me how to taste whiskey.
Yep.
So I kind of always look back on Chivas quite fondly of like, well, I remember
Yep.
him teaching me with this whiskey, a little splash of water in it and stuff.
What that does to it.
Just what it does, what you should be tasting, how you should be tasting it.
Right.
Again, when you were younger, you were just kind of drinking to get drunk and have a good time. You weren't drinking to enjoy these things. Once you started to learn to enjoy them, then it kind of opened up. But those 3 across the board would be kind of my entry go-to whiskeys. Highland Park still to this day, though, I think is probably my favorite overall whiskey.
We're pretty fun, huh?
Yeah. We just did a dinner with you.
We like
Very lucky. Very lucky.
I think visiting that distillery will be hard. It's kind of a destination.
it's up
stumble
there.
through.
So I grew up in Glasgow, and we lived 90 minutes maybe from Ireland. We could have got there pretty easily, me and any of my friends. We never went once.
Really?
Yeah.
We've never been to any
horrible
distillery.
to think that.
So, well, the good thing is next year, I told them about this, and having met a lot of people to this bar, we're all going to take a trip next summer. We're going to go and visit. We're all going to go and visit like 8 of them. But I'm like, we're all pushing 40 now, guys, and these things were on our doorstep all our lives, and we never
appreciate.
And they all are like, yeah, I know, actually, we should do this.
Never
So I cannot wait. Next year, I'm finally going to go to a Scotch distillery. I've been to Kentucky, I've been to the distilleries in Ireland. I've never been to anywhere I grew up. So you guys have. You guys can tell me. You guys can tell me the good ones to go to. I haven't been to any.
Don't say all of them.
We have a list that we'd love to get to. So, but everybody's list I think is a little different.
I think we're going to start with the Islay places, just because it's closest to home.
I could spend a whole week on that island.
That's a week trip for
Belfast.
sure.
And I know, like, knowing Scotland well, there's only like 2 weeks where the weather's good, so we're going to try and get it. Last week of July,
Good luck with that. That's
so
why
last
the
week of
whiskey's
July,
good.
first week of August, that's usually when you get slightly acceptable weather to hang out and drink. We'll see.
With good whiskey, you don't worry about the weather so
Not
much.
so much, but we'll see.
So tell me, how do you run into John Glazer? Because that's where this story starts. That's where this whole the Spaniard thing.
So that would have come from Karen, who is
So right, you talked about working.
Karen's the brand ambassador for Compass Box, was a good friend of mine. Sorry, I get her name wrong.
No, I'm not a brand ambassador.
I get it wrong every time.
It's the title.
It's the title. You got to get it right. She's the whiskey queen.
Whiskey Queen.
The whiskey queen of the East
Got it.
Coast. There we go.
There you go.
That's a better title.
I'll take
But
That's a good title.
We've known each other for a while, and then we started the relationship with having Compass Box on the menu here, making sure the Penicillin was being made with Compass Box. And we had we kind of have another Scotch whiskey cocktail on our menu that we change around every now and again, but the Penicillin is the main one. We sell a good chunk of the range as well. We used to have a silo, which unfortunately
It's
can't
gone.
get no more.
Yeah, no longer available.
It happens to good whiskey.
It does. But that's kind of how the process started. And then John's just walked in. Basically, I met John. He came in one day. We just started chatting.
He just stumbled in the Spaniard.
Well, no, he didn't stumble in. Karen.
What's going on?
He's looking for a
Come,
drink.
John.
Karen was sure to direct him my way. So we just ended up having a great chat. I remember very well. First of all, we were at the bar just chatting about the different whiskies and kind of, again, similar to what I just talked to you guys about, where I came from, how my kind of love of whiskey and bars grew. And then he came back another time and we sat at a booth and we had some burgers and steaks. We just tried a few, we discussed some ideas, and then it kind of came from there. And it was literally a year ago, I think. It was my Thanksgiving. I was in London seeing some family, and I went over to West London where Compass Box's office are, sat with them for a couple of hours, just tried a few different options, and they came back with a few. Everybody was basically agreed on, like, this is the one, and that was it.
And so that's this
this
guy right
middle
here.
one here.
So you guys
This is
decided
the Spaniard.
over a steak, said, hey, let's make a whiskey together?
I think I'll say it was mostly Karen who did all the hard work. I think you'd be very stupid if you were to say no if someone ever offers you that.
Yeah, that's correct.
You jump at such an opportunity because it is a privilege and something we're like
Absolutely.
undeniably kind of proud of and delighted to have. And you know, I remember the liquor store around the corner from my apartment had it in and took a photo, sent it to my mother.
Oh my gosh, it's mine!
My mother, who doesn't drink, like buys a bottle and makes sure she has it in her hand. It's just one of those very proud moments. And then the staff as well, like just for the staff to kind of get behind that of like,
Wow.
wow, this is really great.
He's
So,
arrived,
you know,
yeah.
Not too many people can say they've done that. Not to mention
No.
you're the proud owner of a bar down here in Manhattan, but you see this on the shelf in a liquor store and you kind of feel you pump your chest a little bit.
This probably gets me more proud than.
Ah,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
It sounds silly because you walk into the bar
Yeah,
and
I'll take that too.
For you. He's working.
But yeah, well, yeah, that just makes you kind of very proud of like,
That's very cool.
how far you've kind of come.
So this comes out, hits the shelf. This is gone. This was gone. This was available for 3 hours.
Quick. Quick.
And now that it's gone, all of a sudden, I fast forward how much time, and then it translates into this guy right here, right? So what's the transition to that? Or is that the question we asked John?
That's the question over John. I was very lucky that John came in here one day and told me that he'd been working on a new whiskey and that he wanted to use this name. And again, I wasn't going to say no to such an opportunity. I love the idea of it. I love everything that Compass Box does. If you kind of see all these labels, they always stand out on the shelf. They always look epic. They always taste fantastic. So to be in any way, shape, or form a part of something that's going to be in our collection, we just were like, please, whatever we can do, we would happily be a part of that. So John will speak to obviously this whiskey, but for us to be in any way, shape, or form involved is just an honor.
Well, I know it's actually available now. You can find this guy on the shelf. I've seen it on the shelf. We've tried it. We sampled it with Compass Box folks in Indianapolis. We need to get a bottle to actually review it, but this is the one that's gone now. I mean,
I might know a guy who can.
That would really be.
I know a guy.
I don't think your last bottle.
You do know a guy.
I know a guy.
Okay, very good.
Well, thank you so much for having us, and we appreciate your time, and it's such a cool place to come into.
It's an awesome bar.
It's a great bar, great atmosphere. We wish you success.
Thank you.
You know, obviously, free advertising on a whiskey label doesn't hurt anything. There's a lot of old bars out there that can't claim something like that, so that's a pretty cool deal.
No, great atmosphere. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much.
Love your drink.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully
Mike.
you stay around for a little bit.
We will.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
you very much. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks
guys.
for watching.
Slancha.
Slash.
We tried them, but John would have known this drink from back when my friend Sammy invented this drink in a bar called it was then called Milk and Honey, it's now called Attaboy.
Okay.
He invented this drink, and when he invented it, he used, Karen will correct me, but I know it was Peat Monster on the top, and Karen, what was the? Sila would have been the base. Can't get anymore. No, I'm not going to speak ill of my friends. They don't use it. They don't use those ingredients as much anymore. But when I was opening here, the first idea I had for the bar was we should have a whiskey section and just regular cocktail section. So I wanted all whiskey cocktails that were reflective like Scottish, Irish, Japanese, but the key was this drink was the top one. And still, if we had a drink menu here, that is still the top drink on the whiskey side. We've been over about 18 months, but it's like second or third bestseller. And it's just great for me to see that people were responsive to a drink like that, open to a drink like that. You know, you don't necessarily need to be selling teals and sodas, which sell, but you don't need to be selling that. You don't need to be selling like girly-ish or whatever type cocktails. People are wanting to try something delicious with an ingredient that they wouldn't usually have in a cocktail normally. And our second biggest selling cocktail has mezcal in it. So again, it just yeah, mezcal. So then there's rum cocktails there, there's Irish whiskey cocktails there, there's tequila cocktails there. The best two sellers are Scotch and mezcal. So that's great. That's what I wanted.
That's a
the whole idea of this bar.
When you said that,
So I'll give you a little.
I've had this.
Okay, yeah. So.